Hello, can people hear me? I think I removed the text off the screen, the little starting soon. So, uh, yeah, I guess if my mic volume is good. Oh, I'm sorry for hyping this up so much, by the way, but this is more people, a lot more people than I expected. I thought like I would have been happy with 5 people, so I'm glad people are excited. Hey, people say it's good. So I guess we'll just start. So yeah, actually I should have started here, but this is like a new strategy that Xer Solver and I worked on, and I kind of clickbaited with the 2023 strat of the year thing, but I think we finished most of it in 2022. So this has been it's been done. It's been mostly done for a while. I've just been really busy, and today I figured it's been long enough, so I just wanted to tell people about it. I was gonna make a video, but too much work, so go to stream instead. Yeah. So I guess some background, right? I mean, in general, right? The one throw accuracy can be improved, right? Like the maximum the the accuracy for one throw using Ninja Brain Bot normally with current methods is somewhere in the range of 60 to 70%. And you can just do two throw, right? That is an option, but it's obviously significantly slower. You got to measure twice, and I think the most important part is your eye break chance goes up. So that's going to hurt your chances to do like 5 rods, or even not be able to finish a run on 6 rods. So yeah, there's it's essentially like the 1/3 of 1.16, right? Like you have a there's a pretty high chance near the end of the run that it's just gonna die because you get some bad offset or something, even if you don't do anything wrong. So and like a lot of there's been a decent amount of fast paces already that have been lost to incorrect offsets. So like it's pretty provably something that would be good for the category. I mean, one notable example is Xylonox's 420 home portal, right? That first offset on that one was, I mean, that one's really good pace, but the wrong offset. So yeah. I want to give some disclaimers because I did hype this up a lot. I'm not saying that this is immediately going to be used in every single run. It's a bit, maybe a bit difficult. It's a rather technical strategy that like requires some setup, and it is technically slightly slower than the current eye measurement method. So I don't necessarily think that like everyone's going to start doing this right away, but I think it's really cool, and also like it's a really big deal in terms of progress that we've made over time. So I still think it's cool, even if not everyone starts doing it tomorrow. Okay, so as you guys probably figured out by now, this is a new one throw triangulation eye measurement strategy. So yeah, this, I mean, obviously, like I said, the most important thing that we wanted to improve was the accuracy in order to save more runs. And um, I think we did a pretty good job of that. In testing, Xer Solver was able to get 50 consecutive successes, which is essentially impossible with the old method, right? That would be 70% to the 50th power, which is incredibly unlikely. So it's like 5 times less likely to have to have, if you go to the first offset, you're 5 times less likely to fail, which is pretty huge. I mean, I'm sure a lot of runners right now can think of times when um think of times where they got a bad offset, right, and it would essentially prevent that happening way less often. And while I did say it is a bit slower in IGT than the current way people play, it's potentially like zero IGT slower than current if you do everything right and if it's the right scenario. So it's not really any slower. Like it is a little bit slower, but like barely. So it's not like, oh, I got to do this whole setup. So maybe pretty viable. It does require some things to do before you actually start the run, and I'll explain sort of why these things are later. But um, this is just like what the things are. So the first thing you have to do is you have to set your sensitivity to 0.18319,659. So we'll get to why that is later, but that is required. And then the next thing is you want to set your standard deviation to 0.0007. So that's like what? It's like a tenth of what the normal sensitivity is. Um, and uh, this is before the run. By the way, you have to change it before you start. And then you also need a special bot version, which is in development. Ninja Brain and X have been working on it, and it's essentially ready, but we still have to get it merged and approved. So, and yeah, if anyone wants to test, I'll give out the download to people afterwards. Okay, so here's the actual steps that you take in order to do this strategy. So what you do is you exit the nether, place a boat, get in and get out, and then F3C. You throw an eye. You look at it, and then you pause, FOV down, DPI down, and then use the tall macro to make your instance really tall. And then you just put your cursor near the eye, and then count pixels offset. Like you count the number of pixels, which we'll get to. You'll understand that better whenever we go through the examples. And then you enter in that offset into the bot, and that's done by doing certain key presses based on the number of pixels. So, and before we go to the examples, I wanted to quickly say, like, just say credits for people. So, I mean, like I said, myself and Xer came up with it, and then also Ninja Brain helped with stuff. Four was so there's some concepts that were contributed by Four, and then of course original Perfect Travel. A lot of the stuff there is relevant here. So Matthew, Jojo, other people. So yeah. Okay. Now for the example, Xer was kind enough to make a YouTube video for us because I can't even play 116. So we're gonna go through those. So this is him actually doing. So I'm just gonna play it through one time, and then I'm gonna go back and then show exactly like what he's doing. Okay, yeah, that's it. So you can see, go back to the beginning. First thing is getting in the boat. So just get in the boat and then press F3C here in order to record that to the clipboard. You can see in this version of Ninja Brain Bot, there's a little boat icon. And then whenever he does the F3C, it changes color because it's updated, right? Because you got the F3C angle. Then you just pause, look at the eye, 30 FOV, and then this tall macro, this makes your instance the maximum possible height, which is 16,384 pixels tall. So that's already a known macro, just that a lot of people use. And then all you have to do is try and get your crosshair as close to this line right here on the eye as you can. And so you can't necessarily always get it in the exact right place. So instead what you do is you get it very close and then you pixel count. So let's go back here. In this case, it's on the right. His crosshair is 4 pixels wide. And he's exactly lined up on the right side of this line. So, as a result, what he does is he adjusts it 4 to the left. So you can see 4 key presses, 0.009 offset, and then you press F3C, and you're done. Got the right location. I'll go through another example, but does that like make sense? I don't know if there's more things I should explain about, but this is just about how to do it. I mean, obviously there's a lot of stuff that's confusing in general about this, but oh, cool, it makes sense. Yeah, counting the screen pixels. So if we go back, let's look at this one. So in this one, crosshair is 4 pixels wide. And in this one, remember the last one, the crosshair was on the right side. So we had to do 4 to the left because it's 4 wide. This one is straight up the middle. Straight up the middle. So actually, I don't know, my stream quality might not be that great. So I'll post the link in chat. So if people want to look at the examples themselves to see a bit better, this one's at 45 seconds. I'll give you guys a second to open that because I remember my resolution's not super great. Yeah, so in this instance, it's 2 pixels here, since it's straight up the middle, 2 offset to the left. He did F3C after the boat, and then F3C here, 2 offset. That's minus 0.004. Okay, now third example. A little bit of lag here. This is the tall instance resize, and then we can see it's lined up right to the left of this line. So this is actually dead on. This is a 0. 0. Okay. Ocean spawn, nice thing in these spawns. I think was it I think it might have been Camo that was it Camo or someone else that came up with this? Someone correct me in chat. But you can put your boat on top of the portal real quick and then get on top and do your measurement up there. And this one, it's right on the left of that line again. So it's another 0. And another ocean spawn. So just do the same thing. F3C in the boat. It's green. Line up. This one is to the right of the line. So this one's another 4. You can tell it's another 4. You can see it goes minus 0.009. That's 4 key presses. And that's all the examples. So it seemed like in chat most of the people like that was they sort of got why or they got the steps involved at least. So that's good. Now, of course, the part that I haven't really explained at all yet is how does this work? So I'm just gonna give a brief overview of the major components and how they work, and then I'm gonna answer a bunch of chat questions at the end. So I mean, the first mysterious thing I think whenever you're seeing this is the sensitivity value, right? Why do you need to set your sensitivity to 0.1859695 or whatever? And so some background on this, right? One of the biggest problems in triangulation, accurate triangulation has always been that f3c rounds your angle to the nearest hundredth of a degree, right? So you can't have anything more accurate than 0.01. Um, so I one day I and one day I was trying to figure out, how how do we improve past that accuracy? And I remembered that I think like a year or two ago, for when he was working on original Perfect Travel, was testing how many exact what at what sensitivity settings produce what precise changes in angle, right? So if you have this sensitivity, and that what is your angle changed by? And he actually got a mod made by their friend Unescribed that showed all the decimal places beyond just the first two in F3. And what this made me realize is, like, as long as you know what your true angle is, you can that what your angle is some multiple of the minimum amount that is moved for each mouse movement, if that makes sense. So every single mouse movement is a certain number of units, let's say like 10 units. And let's say your your angle conversion is like 0.011, right? So let's say you move 7 of those, it would show like 0.08. 0.08 is what it would show, but your actual angle would be 0.077. And you would know that because it shows 0.08, the only number, the only possible angle that rounds to 0.08 is 0.077. So you know that because your sensitivity and because it's showing 0.08, you know what it has to be. Now, that was a big improvement, but that's actually not quite good enough. If you just do that alone, it doesn't improve your accuracy that much. Right? So one really important part is that internally in Minecraft, there is a double to basically there's a precision reduction, a double to floating point cast, which means that even if you know your exact angle and like your exact your what do you call it, your exact like precise number, like 0.077 in my example, it actually won't be precisely a multiple of that each time. There'll be a small sort of jitter in your true angle because whenever this one's pretty hard to explain in non like technical terms, but essentially there's a precision reduction. So instead of it actually being 0.077, it might be like 0.07684 or something. So it's it sort of adds like a bit of a random jitter in a way. So the point of having this very special value is that Xer wrote a program which goes through every single possible sensitivity value, and we check how much double to floating point cast rounding error there is, and the lowest, the ones with the lowest amount of error are the best ones to measure with because you have the least amount of this jitter essentially. That one's the hardest one to explain. The other ones are simpler. Don't worry. So the tall macro, right? This is something I came up with a while ago, and Ninja Brain came up with an important equation in this that took me a while to understand. But the key concept here is that uh, if you make your instance a lot taller, you decrease the number of degrees per pixel. So if you're at like 1440p, then each pixel on your screen is 0.025, which is already worse than the 0.01, right? So this is part of why 4 needed to do subpixels, because within a single hundredth of a degree, you would have the same exact display because it was 0.025 instead of something less than 0.01. However, if you use the tall macro to resize to 16384, then each pixel on your screen is 0.0022 degrees. So, oh, 4 is here too. Let me give 4 VIP. So that essentially lets you know your precise angle, right? So I know I'm 0.077 and I'm slightly off, right? So then you have to do pixel counting to in order to get your exact value. Now the reason you need to do this is because the minimum sensitivity still is about this is slightly less than 100th of a degree, slightly less than 0.01. So even if you move your mouse the absolute minimum possible, you'll be moving like 3 times this. Like 3x this 0.0022. So no matter how perfectly you move your mouse, your crosshair isn't going to be able to be perfectly aligned. Right? So yeah, it goes back to the same thing here. So essentially, right, you know your true angle and you know the pixel count. You just adjust and then you have your angle to within 0.0022 degrees. Yes. And then the boat part. This is maybe one of the parts that is a bit weird, but so because you're, I mean, there's a few things here. One of them is that over the course of a run, right, you're going to have small amounts of error accumulate. So let's say since the start of the run, right, I know that I did 7 movements. Each one was 0.011, right? I would know I'm like 0.077, so it has to be some multiple of this. But then like I get in a boat, and whenever I'm going into the nether, right? And then that just whenever you get in a boat, because the boat snaps to this certain angle, it's gonna reset your angle back to whatever the boat is. So basically your whole precise multiple assumption is completely ruined, which breaks everything, right? So what we need to do is we need to ensure that we can get this precise multiple again. So whenever a boat's placed, it snaps rounding down to the nearest, I think it's 1.425 degrees. Xer can correct me. But yeah, so then you know what, and then since you do an F3C, you know this is my base angle, and from this base angle, every single movement I make will have an added multiple of my pure sensitivity value. So yeah, those are the 4 main components: the boat, having the tall macro, pixel counting, and of course the sensitivity value. Yes, and there's a lot of other things. This is, I mean, that's essentially it, right? Like this is the high level explanation of what the strategy is and how it works and like why it's useful. So, if anyone has any questions in chat, please post them.